back to the Old Ways Rising Farm YouTube channel and the 5th edition in this Introduction to Wood Carving series. This is going to be the first full wood carving project that we're going to do together. We've talked about procuring tools, maintaining tools, what types of wood work well. Now let's actually get to the fun part, which is carving something. Okay, so we are here just a little past the middle of December when I'm filming this, and it's a really good time of year to carve a candle. This is also a very straightforward way to talk about the basic techniques of carving while we're actually producing something. So I hope you will join me and make this. Make one of these. It takes a stick. Okay? You don't need much wood. It's a very straightforward project, very small piece of starting material. This is just an offcut from some other carving blanks that I was making out in the shop this morning. Wherever you are, I'm sure that you can find a stick. Okay? And it's a great time of year to do this. Whether you have just finished Hanukkah or in the middle of Advent or looking forward to a winter solstice celebration, a candle is a very appropriate project for the time of year. So, let's get started. This is what we're going to make, and we're going to carve it from this block. You can use any size here. There is no pattern for this. You don't need a pattern. You can't go wrong with picking your material. If you want a bigger flame, make a bigger flame. If you want a taller candle, make a taller candle. If you want it thinner, make it thinner. Okay? But however you make it, it's a great little project, a little non-incendiary item to put in a wreath or a decoration, or put a little screw eye in, leave the flame a little blunt, put a screw eye in it, and you have a little Christmas tree decoration. So, great little project. Now, the crux of this project is taking this stick and making it round. So this is the big thing that I want to talk about here, is how do we carve something round symmetrically and with control. Okay? And the key idea in this is the pattern of square, octagon, round. Okay? Square, octagon, round. You shape in the square. You get your basic form in a square. Then you take the square and you form it to an octagon. And you do this because while you have straight edges, you have references, both visually and that you can mark upon. Okay? And then when you take your square and you change it to an octagon, well, now you can look at it and you can look down, you can look at the facets, and you can ask yourself the question, are these facets even? And then once the answer to that question is yes, then go ahead and do your final rounding, your final shaping, your final tweaking of form. Okay? So we're going to do that. We're going to talk about the square, octagon, round principle with this, and then we will also talk about it in the next edition with our Christmas goose that I've been teasing for the last 4 videos. We will get to the Christmas goose, I do promise you. So, okay. For this, all we need is a stick and the Sloyd knife. We're not even going to use the hawksbill knife on this. This is just one tool and one stick and a little bit of practice. So, these don't take too long to do. I did this one in about 12 minutes. I actually timed it to see how long this, guess how long this video would take to record. And you don't have a lot of time investment. So if you mess it up, you're not out a lot of material, you're not out a lot of time. This is a great first actual project. Do get a blank you don't care about and just practice using your knife a little bit before you dive into this project. But this is a really great first project to dive into. So the first thing I want to do is get an even symmetrical square. So here at the top, it's actually pretty close. I just need to even this up a little bit. I'm doing this finger curl cut. Okay. So I'm just evening that up a little bit. And then I'm going to even this face up a little bit. Kind of cut through that. That divot won't be there until we're all done. Okay? Now, I'm going to just continue these shapes down, just shaving and slitting as much as anything some of this wood off. Okay? look at it. This is a little fatter than I want on this side. Just even that up. Okay. And the preference for pulling versus pushing stroke is really more about how easy it is to hold in a certain position than anything. This work. Okay. I have a pretty even square there. Now, I want to taper this a little bit. So to taper it, I'm going to take a cut at the top. Then I'm going to come back about 1 centimeter and take an even shaving. Okay. And then do it on the next side. Turn it one facet, take a cut, move back 1 centimeter, take a cut, and continue that evenly. So I have 2 cuts at the front, 2 cuts at the front, 1 cut in the middle, and no cuts at the bottom. And this will start to produce a taper. 1 cut, another, come back, continue it forward, okay, even it out. Again, 1 cut at the top, move back. Okay, so you can see we're starting to taper. Now, it's not perfectly even. There's a little bit of a swelling here, so I'm just going to shave that. And straighten it all out. Okay? So now I have a square taper. I am going to octagonalize this before I mark out where the... Yeah, just tell me if it's not right. I am going to octagonalize this before I start to mark out where the flame is. So I'm just going to come to each corner, take off a slice, fairly conservative slice to start. And then I'm looking at the end and saying, where is it even, where is it not? Okay? So this one's a little on the lean side, that one's a little on the lean side, those two are a little on the fat side. So I'm just going to take another shaving from the ones that are a little lean. Okay? And just keep doing that until I have a symmetrical octagon on the end. A little bit at a time. Don't get too greedy with your cuts. Okay, so now I have an even octagon around there. Now I'm going to continue that down. And again, because I'm keeping everything angular at this stage, so I can use the straightness of these intersections as a gauge for the symmetry of my carving. If there's a woogity line, that means that something is out of symmetry. It's out of proportion. If I keep all of those lines nice and straight, then I am proceeding as I want. And these you can just split that off, right? Just set your knife here, it's just going to split off. Totally fine. Then come back and even it all out. Okay, so we're developing a nice taper. Now, to start doing the flame, I need to take this taper in to a point right at the middle. So again, to maintain this centered, we will make the flame slightly asymmetrical at the end, but just to keep this centered, I'm going to take one shaving on each facet. Okay, and I look, is it still symmetrical? Is it still centered? This one's a little lean, all the rest look good, so I'll just shave that one. In between steps, always make your stuff right. Okay? Now I'm going to go for another cut on each one. A little closer to the end this time. That was a little bit more conservative than I wanted it, so I'm just going to go back around. Just taking an even shaving. The same thickness on every facet will keep it symmetrical. Okay? So now we have the top of our taper. Okay, it's in the frame. Now, still a long ways off from that, right? Okay, so I want to decide, and there's no right or wrong answer to this, how tall or short do I want my flame to be on this? So I'm just going to decide I want it here, and now I'm going to just run the blade around, making a depression, which will serve as a stopping cut all the way along. Okay, can you see that in the frame, beloved?
Oh, a little bit. Yes.
A little
there
bit.
we
That
go.
stopping cut all the way around. Okay. Now I'm going to cut down into it. Okay.
While being careful of your fingers.
Well, being careful of my fingers, yes, but also this needs to be deep enough that when I come down, I don't split off the whole side of the candle. Okay. So a cut, if it doesn't fall right off, don't force it. Cut down, cut in, cut down, cut in, cut down, cut in, down, in, down, in. Okay? So we started to define our flame. Now, it's not quite where I want it. That's still a pretty fat flame. So I'm just going to go around again, still keeping it an even octagon. Using those straight lines as a gauge of symmetry. I like the flame to be asymmetrical at the end of the day, but I want it to be asymmetrical in a controlled fashion that I choose as the last step. I don't want forced asymmetry because I didn't carve it well. Okay? So, there we have a pretty nice blank. Okay? Kind of a preform for this. Now, this bottom is real blocky, so I want to taper this in. So again, I'm just going to go and make one even cut on every facet. Okay. Look at it. You see, I'm maintaining the symmetry at every stage. If it gets off, always look at it. When you go around, look at it. See if you've maintained your symmetry. It's much easier to keep it in alignment than it is to get it into alignment after it's already gotten off. It's true for metalwork as well. When I'm smithing, you don't want to hit cold steel. So right where you're crossing the transition, between hot enough to forge and move metal, just the last 10 seconds of your heat before that. Straighten your work. Keep it in alignment. Okay. There we go. So we're now to a reasonable size. This one's a little bit fatter than that one. That's totally fine. We're assuming that this is an old-fashioned handmade candle, so they're not going to be all identical. These sort of candles would pretty much always have a little bit of a taper in the bottom, so they fit in the candlestick holder. So we're going to put that in. Again, one cut on each. Here I'm using the thumb pressure because it's easier to hold in this hand while doing this. Okay. One even cut on every facet. Good, that one's a little lean, there we go. Still keeping my setter because I'm keeping my facets all the same. And now I just like to clean up the bottom here a little bit. So I'm just going to take a very small shaving just by kind of setting this, and then I'm twisting the candle with the knife basically held in the same position. Just a little bit there. Okay. So that just kind of controls a little bit of the fuzz at the bottom. And looking around, we're in good shape. Okay, now we round everything. When you're doing these final cuts, we want everything to end up clean. Do the more durable section first, because if I slip off of here and hit that, I want some meat left in this candle flame so that I can fix it in the final cuts up here. So I'm going to do the stick first, and this is just little tiny cuts to take all of those ridges off. This is the final rounding. This is the round of the square octagon round. That square octagon round is kind of the first rule of effective hand shaping of anything that is going to end up round. Doesn't matter what art form you're working in or what medium you're working in. Square octagon round is the way to go. Okay, that's all rounded. We'll carry that up. See there, I touched that ever so slightly. You probably won't even pick up in the camera, it's so slight, but if you look at it, you would see it, and it would jump out if you put finish on it. But since I'm doing this last, that won't be there in the final product. So always kind of think about order of operations. What am I more likely to touch with the knife before I'm done? Tradition down in central Pennsylvania, my very Pennsylvania Dutch family comes from, candles were put in windows as a sign that any traveler was welcome to come in for a rest and a meal. Very nice way to be a peacemaker. Kind of rolling this in my hands and truing everything up. Looking at the light and the shadow. If something looks funky, I fix it. Doesn't have to be any particular thing, but if it looks funky to me, I make it look less funky. Okay? Now, do the same on the candlestick. Bring this to a point. I'm going to favor one side in that point. Like I said, candles always blow around in the breeze a little bit, so a little bit of asymmetry will look more natural. But you want it to be a controlled asymmetry that is a function of your design choice, not an accidental asymmetry. Okay. So there, that's fairly round as it is. And here for these finishing cuts, choke up on your knife. This is why I really like these shorter blades. Because for these finishing cuts, you can choke way up and only have that very tip sticking out. Okay? So now I'm going to kind of take the sides off of all of these and slim that down a little bit. I want to slice, not split when I'm doing this, and you have to have a very sharp blade for that to work. Okay? All the way around there. Now just smooth that in. Always takes longer when you're talking. The prototype took me 12 minutes. I'm going to be more like 23 or 4 here. Even that out. And when you like it, it's done. Okay? So now we have 2 candlesticks for whatever wreath you're making. I hope that you will try this project, do this project. You don't need to buy a pattern book. You need one tool and a little bit of scrap, and you can do this project. So, do try this. Do try this at home. Okay? Make these. They're great little things, and they look like $1 million when you put them in with something. People will love these as gifts. So, I hope you have enjoyed this video. I hope that you like, share, and subscribe, and I especially hope that you ring the notification bell so that you see when the Christmas goose loads. No, hold them right side out. When the Christmas goose loads. Till then, have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you next time.